Hi, I'm Chris.
I'm Tammy.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Lance.
Welcome to our home. Disney World
Versus
Disneyland.
Let's talk about resorts and hotels and things like that in and around the park. Maybe for structure here, we'll talk about resorts that are Disney resorts first.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about the benefits of each park regarding resorts that are not Disney.
Gotcha.
And so, that are not run and operated by Disney.
Okay.
So let's do Disney first. Now, Disneyland only has two, right?
Correct. Now they have two resorts there, which of course is the Disneyland Resort, which you go there and I want to say you have three different main hotels there. They used to be, I want to say back in the day, it was the Bonita Tower and two other towers. Forgive me for I've forgotten which ones they were. So you have the Disneyland Resort, which of course has those ones there, and they're themed, which is really cool. So you go into each one, and it's actually like themed whatever hotel or whichever one. I know that one that you go in is like the main Disneyland, and it has a lot of the Walt Disney like memorabilia that's in there. And that is the first hotel. If you're like walking in, you go through that what you call it, the Sorcerer's Hat, and it's going to be on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Then you have one that's going to be over on your left, and that one is themed, I think, Adventureland. And then you have another one that's towards the back on the left, and that one is themed, I want to say Frontierland. And so it's kind of neat when you go in and you have like the different themings of the hotel. And then you have, of course, the Grand Californian, which that particular hotel is fantastic.
Right. And now that's a DVC also.
Oh, okay, yes.
So that's the only DVC I think at Disneyland. But that is a DVC if you're interested in that. So just wanted to throw that in there. I didn't know if you knew that.
No, I think when we were going there, the last time I went there, they were selling a lot of the vacation clubs and trying to do that, the little bungalows and stuff that they were trying to sell. I want to say they had some bungalows that were at the Disneyland Resort, but it was just showing you what they look like at the Grand Californian. It was more of like, hey, if you come in here and take a look at it, this is a model of what what you're able to get.
Right. That's what they do at Disney at Saratoga Springs.
And you guys have a ton of resorts out there, don't you?
Yeah, there's I think 12 Disney DVC resorts, and then if you factor it all in, I think we looked it up the other day. Was there almost 31 or some odd resorts?
Okay.
30 or 31, so tons of Disney resorts. So you're not going to run out of places to stay that are Disney. And the other thing that's I think different over California is when you go to California. When I planned my trip, those two hotels were both expensive comparatively to like the Value Resort at Disney World, where you can get it for $98 a night, $108 a night.
Wow.
And Disneyland, and that's still on property.
Okay.
And so Disneyland is not, I've never found them that cheap.
No, I've never found anything really that cheap, less than $100 a night, unless you want to go, I'm not trying to name thing, but people remember the old Candy Cane Inn that used to be down the way, and that would be something that you could go and stay in.
I heard that hotel's actually nice though.
It's
not terrible.
Fun, no.
We met some people when we were in Disney World, and her family used to go all the time, and we were talking about resorts, and she actually said that her family always stays at the Candy Cane Inn.
The Candy Cane Inn was fun. I remember going as a kid. Well, I've been going to Disneyland since 1977 and staying at the resorts up until probably the mid-90s. And then just prices skyrocketed in the mid-90s. And then we started staying at the Jolly Roger. And the Jolly Roger, it was just cool because, Jolly Roger Hotel, but mind you, it was across the street, so you had to kind of like walk to it. That was before Downtown Disney, different things like that. Then you start seeing a lot of these different theming hotels started showing up, which was kind of cool. You had like the Camelot Inn, which was across the way, ones that were there. Really cool. There are a couple of ones that are outside that you can stay in. I know that the Park View Inn was fantastic, that we would always stay. It was across the street. from the main entrance, right next to McDonald's, and they had a pool that was on the second story. And you'd go and you'd be sitting there and sitting by the pool and looking and watching the fireworks.
Oh, wow,
And so
nice.
always remember doing things like that.
There's even a Best Western there though too. So if you have points through Best Western, you can just stay at the Best.
Yeah, we stayed at the La Quinta.
Yeah,
Our
Yeah,
first
we
trip
went,
to
yeah.
Disneyland.
And it was nice.
And it's cool because they're all, what I like is, again, if you're going to stay at the resort or around there, you definitely want to make sure that you stay at what's called a good neighborhood resort. And it's actually a good neighbor hotel. It's approved by Disney. It's part of a program that you have to be, and in order to be the best hotels. And so unfortunately there are some hotels, motels in the area that aren't approved by Disney as a good neighbor hotel. The other good thing about these hotels that are approved by Disney is you can actually, I know we'll touch base on it later, but you can actually pin trade at all the good neighbor hotels, which is really cool. So you go to the front desk, they all have pin trading boards that are right there, and as long as they are a good neighbor hotel, they're pin trading.
And I think you can buy your tickets into the park at those
Correct, you
hotels.
can, and that's the one thing about it you can do, is you can sit there and do that and buy the tickets there, and they're not going to skyrocket tickets. They have to sell them at the same price that Disney would sell them to.
That's right. So we've kind of blurred the lines a little bit here between the inside the park and outside the park. As far as Disney World, outside the park, there is the Swan and Dolphin, which technically is not a Disney hotel, but technically kind of is a Disney hotel.
Okay.
And so that's an odd thing.
Explain that to me, because
When Disney was building those hotels, they were a little shy on money, and so they were gonna go in with the people who own the Swan and Dolphin,
okay.
and they were going to build this hotel where the I think it was either the Contemporary or the Polynesian is, and they were going to build it there, but along through the process, Disney decided they didn't want to let somebody have that prime real estate on their property, and so they tried to back out of the deal, and the other company tried to sue them. Well, Disney couldn't get out from under the lawsuit, but they found a workaround not to let them build where they had originally intended and put them over there where they're at, which is kind of in between Epcot and what's now Hollywood Studios. At the time, it probably wasn't as good of a piece of property as it is now. But that's kind of the circumstance with that one. But
And so what that means is, for example, if you stay at the Swan and Dolphin, Disney transportation does not apply to you as far as like from the airport to your hotel.
Right.
So if you stay at Swan and Dolphin, you're not going to get that airport shuttle.
But-
now you are able to use other inside transportation, such as the buses and the
boats.
and the boats and things like that.
They go
But you're not going to get that airport shuttle, which is a big deal. I mean, it's costly to have a shuttle from the airport to the
Right.
resort. So
So that's one hotel that's kind of on property that's not Disney owned. That's the only hotel
on property.
on
yeah.
property. Now after that, you kind of get pushed out to Disney Springs and beyond to
Okay.
get to a hotel. And Disney Springs from the Magic Kingdom, for instance, is about a 20-minute ride on a bus. And so if you
Wow.
stay at a different hotel outside like that, there are a few right around Disney Springs that you can still get a hold of the transportation quick enough and without major problem. But all the others, they usually provide their own transportation, like shuttles.
So
Like-
question, I know we're going back to the resorts, transportation, things like that. When I visited Disney Springs, now is there access to any of the parks from Disney Springs?
No. The only thing you can access from Disney Springs, or it's not really Disney Springs anymore. Oh yeah, it is. I'm sorry. From Disney Springs, you can access I was thinking Downtown Disney, which is what it used to be. You can access Saratoga Springs Resort.
Got it.
And
okay.
so that's one of the larger resorts.
So you can't access any of the parks from that area?
Not from Disney Springs. So like if you
Gotcha.
were to show up at Disney Springs, you couldn't walk to the parks or anything, but you can ride a bus straight to a park.
Yeah.
And that's no problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually stayed off property one time.
Yeah.
And it was just for like a couple of nights, and we stayed at a Holiday Inn.
Yep.
And they had shuttle service from the resort or from the hotel to the park.
We didn't use it. We had a car.
We did have a car, but they also did have a shuttle.
Right.
But I think that from our perspective, like when you're looking at, from staying on property and staying off property, it is so much more convenient to stay on property with how the distance from the parks there is, the convenience of just having someone else drive you to the parks. I think that
the difference is when you hit the end of a day at Walt Disney World and you've been there for 14 hours or 12 hours, you don't want to have to drive yourself another 45 minutes to get to a hotel,
No, understand
or
that.
another 30 minutes. You would much rather just get in the car with somebody else
and let
them drive you. And
Which
so that's
I can get
a
that.
benefit.
Yeah.
Whereas for Disneyland, with the resort being so close, again, you guys saying the whole 14
Right.
hours, especially when you're doing the Magic Morning Breakfast. If you're staying at Disneyland Hotel, you just get on that monorail, which is like less than a 10-minute ride.
Yeah.
And by the end, at like 12:30, you're sitting there and you're exhausted. You got your everything. Mind you, the cool thing, I don't know if they do this at the parks there in Disney World, but they have package pickup where if you buy something which I think is fantastic, is, being so close and again, staying on property, either you're going to stay at Grand Californian or you're going to stay there at Disneyland Hotel. Whatever you buy in the park, you give them your room number, and it's delivered to
Right.
your room,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. Or they have package pickup at the end of the day.
Right.
But
Yeah.
again, being so tired after the 14 hours, whether you got kids or you got people like me that my feet are tired or whatever, I just get on that monorail, take my 10-minute snooze, it drops me off right there, and I just walk right to my hotel room.
Yeah.
The way I see it is the difference between Disney World and Disneyland is, and this is going to take us to one of our other ones, so we'll kind of just segue into it. But if you're staying on property, it's all immersive.
Yes.
Even at the value resorts at Disney World, it's immersive. You walk on there, it's All-Star Sports. It's like you walked onto a giant football field.
Which you're right, and that stuff like that, I love how Disney does that with the theming,
Yeah.
And
it's just fantastic.
as far as hotels off of Disney World and hotels off of Disneyland, if you stayed at a value resort on Disney World, it's running about the same price as a hotel off of Disneyland pricing.
Okay.
So they're not that much of a difference. I know because when I stayed at that La Quinta, it was like $150 a night. Well, I stayed at Coronado Springs for $150 a night when I looked for it on sale. And so that's like a mid-grade Disney hotel. And so, Disney World hotel. And so, those comparisons to me work out, and you have all the transportation, all the same stuff. So that stuff's not that big of a deal. To me, I think that's pretty close on your bus rides and your monorail rides. The biggest difference between the two now, to me, is just your Skyliner. That's at some of the parks.
Okay.
That sort of thing. But segueing into that idea of immersion.
Correct.
I don't know. We didn't stay at a Disneyland hotel, so I'm not 100% on how immersive the hotels are. But I know that, staying at Disney World, every one of them's themed. I'm certain Disneyland, same thing.
They do, and that's the thing about it. At the resort itself, at Disneyland Resort, the 3 different hotels are of course themed, and Grand Californian is also themed too. I like how you walk from California Adventure, and basically you have your own entrance into the park, which is awesome. So it's like you're walking right through the whole area, like the forest, as you would say, which is really cool. And the theming portion on how they do everything is just fantastic, especially how downtown Disney is incorporated between the resorts.
Right.
So, because that's how it is with, you go through one security check, which is awesome. So you, as soon as you go through that one security check, that's a security check for everything. So you're going to sit there, you go through a security check, that's downtown Disney, that is California Adventure and Disneyland.
Now that wasn't the way it was when we were there, but that's
Correct.
something new.
That is something new. So as soon as you get off of the shuttle, you literally, before you go onto the actual shuttle itself, you go through a security check. They check all your bags and do that. So you go from the shuttle, you go through this little area, as soon as they drop you off, you're good. If you're walking, you don't take the shuttle when you come off, you go through a security check prior to actually coming onto the property.
Right.
It's actually right there, which is awesome too.
So thank y'all for watching Disney World.
Versus
Disneyland.
And until next time,
from our house to yours.